Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Usapang Stocks. My name is Hill, and I'll be your host for this session. Today, we're putting the spotlight on a company that has helped build some of the country's major infrastructure projects, Megawide Construction Corporation, or MWide. From its roots in construction to its growing presence in infrastructure development and transport oriented projects, Megawide has certainly evolved over the years. But with the opportunities ahead also come with important questions for investors. What could drive the company's next phase of growth? What are the key developments and risks we should be watching? And ultimately, what could all of this mean for MWide as an investment? And that's exactly what we'll unpack this afternoon. So whether you're already an M-Wide shareholder, have the stock in your watch list, or simply want to understand the story behind the company, stay with us as we take a closer look at Megawide Construction Corporation here on Utrade's Usapang Stocks. Alright, so to start our discussion, let me call on Unicapital's research analyst Lance Sky to give a quick background on the construction sector.
Right. Thanks for the introduction, Hill. All right. So I'd like to once again thank everybody for attending today's Usapang Stocks with one of the powerhouses in the local construction industry. So before we get into M-Wide, let's briefly look at the industry backdrop. So the Philippine construction sector is currently facing near-term weakness. After contracting slightly in 2025, construction output fell by 13.9% year-on-year in the second quarter of 2026, largely because of the government construction that slowed amid tighter project reviews following the blown-up flood control scandal. So at the same time, rising fuel and electricity costs brought about by the ongoing conflict in the Middle East are adding further pressure to the sector. But however, despite these challenges, including higher borrowing costs and input costs, Megawide has managed to weather the headwinds. In fact, MWide is on track to deliver a projected 1.2 billion pesos in net income in this year. So that's nearly double last year's level. Part of that performance can be attributed to MWide's 4PH and 3D strategy, but I won't get ahead of our guests. So we'll hear more about that later in the discussion. Now, to help us better understand the industry and Megawide's position in creating a first world Philippines, it is our great pleasure to welcome the team's president and CEO, Mr. Edgar Saavedra, together with CFO, Mr. Jez de la Cruz, and Head of Investor Relations, Mr. Rolly Bondoy. We're very delighted to have all of you with us today, and with that, I'll turn the floor over to Sir Rolly. Take it away, boss.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. And we hope you are keeping safe and dry under this very rainy weather. Thank you, Unicapital Securities, for hosting us in this webinar. This afternoon, we will walk you through our financial and operating performance for the first 6 months of 2026, as well as the key developments across our business portfolio and priorities moving forward. Before we begin, please take note of our standard disclaimer slide. Our discussion this afternoon will focus on our 4D strategy, namely, first, deliver, how we perform operationally and financially during the first half of 2026. Second, deliver, or our continued focus on strengthening the balance sheet and reducing debt. Third is dividend, our capital return initiatives and our direction on dividends. And lastly, decarbonize, or our progress on ESG and our continued commitment to support education with the Megawide Foundation. Let me begin with deliver. For the first half of 2026, consolidated revenues reached 8.7 billion, broadly stable versus 8.6 billion in the same period last year. Construction operations generated 6.6 billion and remained the biggest contributor to revenues. Real estate revenues increased 67% year-on-year to 1.8 billion, while terminal operations increased 28% to 278 million. Gross profit was lower at 2.2 billion due to heightened logistical costs brought about by the Middle East war. On the other hand, finance costs decreased by approximately 200 million or 12%, reflecting the impact of our ongoing delivering efforts. As a result, net income increased 22% year-on-year to 532 million, compared with 436 million in the first half of 2025. For context, this represents 80% for full year 2025 net income. Looking at the revenue per segment, construction remains our largest contributor, 76%, while real estate accounted for 21% and terminal operations chipped in 3%. On EBITDA, the group generated approximately 2.2 billion during the first half. The real estate segment showed particular strong improvement, with EBITDA increasing from 166 million to 174 million. Our margin performance also provides context. The group recorded a 25% gross profit margin and an EBITDA of 25% and an EBITDA margin of 25% during the first half. Net income margin improved to 6% compared with 5%. At the segment level, construction's gross profit margin was flat at 23%, while EBITDA remained at 26%. The real estate EBITDA margin improved significantly. It was lower at 27% from 42%. For terminal operations, EBITDA remained healthy at 54%. Our order book stood at 47.5 billion as of first half 2026, representing a substantial revenue visibility of approximately 3 to 4 years. We currently have 26 existing projects, and we are targeting an order book of approximately 60 billion by the end of this year. Our order book is also diversified across several markets. Approximately 32% is from 4PH housing, 25% from residential projects, 24% from commercial and industrial projects, and 18% from infrastructure. One of the new projects supporting our housing portfolio is the 4PH Quezon City Mia Road rental housing project. The project is located in Quezon City and consists approximately of 2,000 units with a contract cost of around 2.6 billion. This project is aligned with the government's 4PH housing initiative and demonstrates our continued participation in the country's housing and urban development requirements. Turning now to real estate, as of June 2026, booked sales reached 3.15 billion, significantly higher than the 1.38 billion recorded in the same period last year. We also have 11 billion in unbooked revenues as of June 2026. These figures provide visibility for the continued growth of our real estate business. An important development during the period was the topic of ceremony of Vesta Residences on August 4, 2026. The milestone, which was celebrated 10 months after we started construction, demonstrates our capability in project execution, anchored in our engineering expertise and precast technology. Now moving on to Land Port, revenues from both office and commercial operations increased compared with 2025. Office revenue increased from 45 million to 81 million, while commercial revenue increased from 172 million to 197 million. This reflects continued activity across the commercial component, while the office component also showed improved contribution during the period. Average daily foot traffic reached 181,000 passengers daily, compared with 165,000 in the first half of 2025, while average passenger spend was approximately 36 pesos, indicating a healthy passenger spending during the period. As of June 2026, commercial occupancy stood at 76% as we opened 4,000 additional square meters of new leasable space. Office occupancy was at 33%. The commercial tenant mix was composed of approximately 53% for F&B, 35% in retail, and 12% in services. For office tenants, the mix was 38% BPO, 33% logistics, and 27% government-related occupants. The second part of our 4D initiative is deliver. As of first half 2026, total assets stood at 65.5 billion, while total liabilities declined to 40 billion from 49.3 billion. One of the most significant developments was the reduction in short-term debt. We reduced this by approximately 8 billion since the end of 2025. As a result, our bank debt-to-equity ratio improved to 1.2 times from 1.5 times, while our net bank debt-to-equity ratio improved to 0.9 times from 1.7 times. Our current ratio also improved to 1.7 times to 2.2 times, enhancing our liquidity position. This slide illustrates the progress on our leverage profile over the past several years. Our historical DE ratio and net DE ratio ratios have continued to improve, with the first half 2026 figures reaching 1.17 times gross DE and 0.9 net DE, based on the parent level historical chart. This came from 1.7 times and 1.44 times as of end 2024, respectively. We're also working toward a more relaxed maturity profile. The maturity tower illustrates our debt obligations across 2026 through 2032, allowing us to better manage upcoming maturities and maintain a more balanced financial position. As of June 2026, 1.8 billion remain outstanding. The third theme is dividend. As part of our commitment to shareholders, we declared a cash dividend of 14.5 centavos per share, which we paid out on August 7, 2026. Looking ahead, the company is considering a potential special dividend before the end of 2026, subject to the appropriate declaration and approval process. Moving forward, the company is planning to have a regular dividend payout beginning 2027. This reflects our intention to balance continued investments in the business, further strengthen the balance sheet, and returns to our shareholders. And lastly, the fourth D is decarbonize, collectively our ESG initiatives. Sustainability continues to be an important part of our long-term strategy. Based on the emissions data presented, Scope 1 direct emissions declined by 40% last year compared with 2024, while Scope 2 declined by 29%. These reductions demonstrate our continuing efforts to improve our environmental footprint. Beyond environmental initiatives, we also remain committed to creating social impact. With the Megawide Foundation, we are supporting 79 scholars, up from 47 in 2024, helping more students pursue quality education and build a brighter future. Before we end, we would like to summarize the key highlights for the first 6 months of 2026. For Deliver, we generated 532 million in net income, up 22% year-on-year, and equivalent to 80% for full year 2025 net income. Construction business continued to provide strong revenue visibility with a 47.5 billion order book with 3 to 4 years of revenue visibility. Real estate continued to gain momentum with 1.7 billion in revenues, up 67% year-on-year, and a strong momentum going to the second half of 2026. For Deliver, we reduced short-term debt by approximately 8 billion since the end of 2025. This helped reduce our bank DE ratio to 1.2 times from 1.5 times, and our net DE from 0.9 from 1.7 times. We also reduced interest expenses by approximately 200 million during the first half. For dividend, we paid 14.5 centavos per share in cash dividends to common shareholders as of August 7th. We are also considering a potential special dividend before the end of 2026 and looking at potentially paying regular dividends beginning in 2027. And finally, for Decarbonize, we reduced Scope 1 emissions by 40% and Scope 2 emissions by 29% from 2024 levels. We are also expanding the impact of Megawide Foundation, with 17 scholars currently supported versus 47 in 2024. Taken together, these 4 themes summarize our direction for first half 2026. Deliver strong earnings, leveraging the balance sheet, returning value, and broadening our shareholder base, and advancing our sustainability and social impact through decarbonization or ESG platform. That concludes our presentation, and I'll turn the floor over to the Unicapital team. Thank you very much, and we're ready to take your questions.
All right. Thank you, Sir Rolly, for that. Okay. So let's start off with a hot topic. So question number one, is M-Wide giving consistent dividends, or do they have a dividend policy for their common shareholders?
Yeah. Well, in terms of our dividend policy, we recently made some changes. I believe about late last year, we revised our policy to up to 50% of previous year's net income. So Rolly mentioned earlier as part of our strategy, the fourth D on dividends. Um, we plan to do it more regular in 2027 instead of making it an annual payout. We are planning to do it on a quarterly basis, but such is will be subject to, of course, the process and approval by our board. But that's the plan moving forward.
Okay, nice. So next up, where in Imus are you building another for PH housing development? I guess in terms of location.
Yeah, this is in Imus, right? Adjacent or right at the back of the new city hall, their new city hall.
I think the new one. I said the one for OLP.
I think that one is near in Advincula Avenue, near in Lancaster, Lancaster, like one Lancaster Park.
Is this one project lang for the Imus development?
Well, in Imus, we have currently we have three projects. One is a 4PH right at the back of the city hall. Number two, we also have a ongoing development, but not a 4PH, but around 3.5 million price range of condominium. This one is in Advincula Avenue, right beside the Shopwise and McDonald's. And then right across of that property, we are launching a new 4PH also, which is a 1.8 million pesos per unit of 27 square meter.
I just want to highlight, no, these condominiums, these 4PH condominiums, these are located near main roads, no, major roads.
Yes, yes.
So very accessible lang siya. Okay, connecting to that, do you see a potential political risk regarding the continuity of the 4PH project, given a change in administration in 2028?
Well, if you look at the socialized housing and affordable housing, that program has been there for the last probably more than one or two decades. The only difference from the previous one and now is the program of the Pag-ibig and the government. They have added, instead of a pure like house and lot or socialized housing, they opted for another options, which is a condominium type, because land is getting more scarce. So in terms of the risk, we think the socialized housing will always be there. As we know, majority of our fellow Filipinos don't have a proper shelter. So that I'm referring not only the informal sectors, but also even teachers, policemen. A lot of our fellow Filipinos don't have proper housing.
Yeah. And if I may add, no, I think even the United Nations highlighted this that Philippines, with its 6.5 million housing backlog, we are already in a housing crisis. So we feel that in terms of political risk, any administration will find this as an important social component that needs to be addressed. And therefore, we feel that this type of projects will continuously be supported. I think case in point, no, we have another project which is the DepEd classrooms. It's also another form of social infrastructure. The first TCIP or TPP for classroom took place way back the Aquino administration, and we finished the 10-year bill lease transfer agreement only last year. So imagine, no, it went through three administrations, Aquino, Duterte, and then the present Marcos administration. And we never had any issue. In fact, in the quarterly release payments of DepEd, not a single delay in payment for the last 10 years. So that similar program, the DepEd, will be launched again. Actually, this year, DepEd is looking to bid out 3,000 classrooms as a first package and another 10,000, so total of 13,000 classrooms. So again, relating this to 4PH, social infrastructure projects like this remain to be, I believe, stable, no, and predictable.
Right. So just for the classrooms, I remember you mentioned that it was to be bidded out September, no, this year.
Supposedly end of August. However, the department still hasn't released the build lease transfer agreement document. So all the bidders are still awaiting that document for us to be able to factor in terms of our plans and programs. So right now we're just waiting for that document. As soon as that's released, it would take us 30 days based on the rules to submit our bid proposal.
Right. I guess trying to tie in that point, no, what you said earlier, na you guys are doing good. It's like philanthropy dun sa business nyo while earning money, and that's somewhat safeguarding your business against political risk. So, with that, are you guys constructing a new you guys are constructing a new precast plant, no, that will double capacity. So once the 4PH program ends, are you guys going to go back to building out high rises for the PH1 segment? And how much capacity will be left available once this bulk in order book goes away in 4PH, assuming that it doesn't continue na? Wouldn't this create a big inefficiency with your precast plants?
Well, I'll take that question. If you look at the demand, the real demand of our housing, generally in Philippines or even in Metro Manila, I don't think we can solve or we can bridge the gap of the demand in the next 7 to even 10 years, considering the growth of the population. So I think the whole industry, if you're going to add up the whole, I mean, the reason why we had this 6 million backlog is it did not happen overnight. This is a series of annual, yearly deficit of the supply side on the demand side. That's the number one problem. Number two problem, of course, is a lack of a better program where to promote the supply side of the private sectors for government to tap the private sectors to also work together, so that to supply the housing to our Filipino people. So so I guess the question is, can we really bridge the gap? I think that's the bigger questions, more than if we bridge the gap, then that's the only problem will come out, that we will have an excess capacity. Only if the whole industry of the Philippines can really bridge the gap. The question mark, if can we bridge it in the next 10 to 20 years?
Yeah. Maybe for context, no, like Megawide being one of the largest players in the industry, and I would like to say na and believe that we're one of the most bullish on and optimistic about this 4PH program. On our part, we are rolling out 100,000 units in the next 5 to 7 years. And correlating that with the housing backlog presently, 100,000 is barely scratching the surface of the 6.5 million housing backlog. So we really do see this as a multi-year requirement that we need to fill in. But however, having said that, part also of our risk management is diversifying also our order book, even at the precast level. So as mentioned, right now we have the Taytay factory, and by next year we will have another factory located in Cavite, similar size. We will be catering not only to our own internal requirement for 4PH, Megawide as a diversified and vertically integrated construction company. We also have projects that are non-4PH. We have the vertical developments, horizontal developments like row houses. We also have infrastructure. So we will be also supplying precast to those internal projects that we have. On top of that, precast, we also see that the industry requires also that technology and innovation. And on our part, as contribution to the overall industry, we are making this technology available even to other players. Even right now, about 30% of our capacity, we already supply other contractors and developers, making this technology accessible and available for all.
Right. Yeah, right. Well, you you mentioned your precast technology, right? So I think that's the main part of why you could pump out 100,000 units on estimate by 7 years now. The how long does it take to build per phase of the project and for the whole project now on average?
Yeah, I think it's better to look at the capacity as a whole, like how many housing units can we really build in 1 year. Right now, we started about for the Q1, Q2 this year, but on an average, on an annual basis, we are able to produce 10,000 units per year. And then once second year, we intend to do 20,000. And then the third year, we intend to do maybe 15 to 30 because we're also putting up a new factory. So that new factory can build easily double, but expandable to more than double, to maybe 1.5 times, 2.5 times from the current. So we're looking at 10,000, 20,000, and targeting 25 to 30,000 on the year 3.
Yeah.
On an annual basis.
Yeah. And maybe to add to that, just as a context to our viewers, a lot of 4PH developers and contractors, they follow the traditional construction method. So they cast and pour concrete on site. No, that's a traditional way. The problem with 4PH, you need to deliver the projects at scale or volume based. So if you're following the traditional construction method, you encountered problems on quality, workmanship, so ang daming rework, back job, and it eats up on the margin to the point that the project becomes not feasible for them. Mega White, on the other hand, because we have the precast technology, we're able to mass produce the components in our factory. And because there's high volume, baliktad yung sa amin. The higher the volume, it's better for us because our cost per unit goes down because we have economies of scale. And once we're able to mass produce the components, we just deliver it on site and build it like Lego. So it's very, very efficient for us. And we believe that's a key competitive advantage that will propel the plan to this program of delivering the 100,000 units.
So tapping onto that, ano yung expected margins on this versus the typical residential housing business?
Lower.
Yeah.
But Boss Ed can give you more context. But in terms of numbers muna, just to
Yeah.
give you lang some guidance. Of course, if you follow the pure private development model, you see very high bottom line margins, no? 20, 30%, even more. However, for the 4PH, of course, we have to take into consideration the social aspect of it. So we're not looking at pricing it or gaining profit from it at that very high level. So we're looking at about maybe 10% bottom line margin. However, because of the volume and the fast turnaround time, in absolute value amount terms, it's very material and substantial contribution for our group. Just as a context, like kanina, no, I mentioned 100,000 units over 7 years. At 1.8 million per unit, that translates to 180 billion of project revenue potential. So from there, you can already do the math, no, and see how that impacts the bottom line overall. But I'll let our boss Ed here talk about his perspective why
Yeah.
Mega White is getting into these social infrastructure projects.
Yeah. Lance, tama naman ang sinasabi ni Jess. If you look at from the developer's perspective, 10% okay na kami. It's low. But the only advantage for Megawide, since we're fully integrated, technically we have the value chain where we are the general construction. At the same time, we are also the supplier, the manufacturer of the precast, and even the equipment, formworks, everything. So I guess the only advantage that we have for the business model for Megawide as opposed to the other companies is that we operate the three value chain. So if you consolidate, we can somehow improve the margin because, of course, for precast, we also need to make a margin on that one. We operate on a per business unit as a construction company and then as a developer company. So when we consolidate, we can somehow improve. But of course, it's not as big as the other developers where they make 40-50% margin per se on the project development, right? But for us, the model that the business model is we're looking at the wholesale approach. We're not looking at the retail. Retail, you make 30-40% margin, but for wholesale, you make single digit, but the volume is 4 or 5 times bigger. So it's the same like philosophy or principle that we're looking, the business model.
Yeah. And then there's also no, I think you need to counterbalance that also with the predictability and stability of the project because if you look at the real estate market now, particularly Metro Manila, diba, it's very, very challenging backdrop. However, for PH programs, it's in the risk proposition. What do I mean by that? Before we even construct the project, all the beneficiaries for a specific tower or building will already be pre-approved or pre-qualified by Pag-ibig. So once we finish the construction, everything will have already take out. And as a developer, we are paid 100% agad upon completion. So that eliminates that layer of market risk. So that also has value. So apart from the scalability, the fast turnaround cycle, yung stability and predictability, especially in this period na there's so much uncertainty, is very, very also valuable. And syempre, being consistent also to the vision of our chairman, syempre engineering a first world Philippines, we cannot always forget yung community and nation building impact of what Megawide do. So it's not just about business, yung contribution din namin to the community is also equally weighted.
Yeah, Lance, we always say this, that if the business has a social impact or nation building component, sabi ko rin, diba, as an organization, we are willing to take a lower return or smaller margin, right? If there is a social impact, so such as this.
Yes, probably just to sum up the two gentlemen's view. I think this is why it's one of the critical anchors for this strategy to decarbonize or ESG, because I think a lot of funds, a lot of investors are looking at that. As boss Ed used to mention, you can make lots of money but employ child labor, destroy the environment, or do a lot of things that do not comply with the regulation. So I think for us, that's a very critical aspect of our growth agenda, which is ESG initiatives also.
O baka Rolly, yung flood control, pwede rin natin tignan umulan eh.
Yeah.
Baka may plans kayo dyan.
I think a lot of big companies are focusing too much on profit, how to become the number one
Right,
in terms of the size in Forbes or everything, or in the, as number one, right? For us, that's why we have a different vision. It's more a first world Philippines, how we can help. Because at the end of the day, you have to choose whether the money or the profit is your ultimate goal or only goal, right? For us, I always say this to our team, that the money, yes, we need money, but we have to equally put the other aspects, such as the nation building, social impact, because it's equally important. If you can make money at the same time have a social impact, higher social impact, nation building component, why not, right? So, and then, like for example, like for this 4PH, right? If we're able to impact hundreds of millions of Filipino people, and then at the same time, okay, make at this smaller margin. But the good thing is we have more predictable, more recurring business. It becomes like a recurring business because the the massive problem of our housing in Philippines is so huge that I don't think it can be solved in the next 10 years. So it becomes like a recurring from that perspective, no? So it really depends how you look at your strategy, and your values and your philosophy, right? Whether you take a view of purely profit or you take a view of combination.
Right. That's a super interesting angle to look at, no? Like you rarely see yung mga construction companies going for like ESG and like socialized housing. It's almost always for profit talaga. So
Yeah, feeling ko yung ESG na yan, disabuse lang eh. People are doing ESG to comply. But for us,
yeah,
sabi ko, we don't need to comply. We just do this philosophy, the philosophy of social impact and environmental compliant, and also some nation building component. That alone is already ESG.
No, saka,
Practice is even better. You walk the talk rather than just you have a nice ESG report, but if you look at people inside the organization are not even aware of what they're doing, di ang tawag doon hipokrito.
no, saka I'll be lang, siguro maybe baka sabihin ng mga nakikinig sa amin, we're just saying this now. I think it's important to also look back on the track record of Megawide. Naman, di ba, 10,000 classrooms we have already delivered to the government. Airport, before, pag sinabing airport, ang pangit, di ba? Congested, but we've delivered two world-class airports. We have the Cebu Mactan Airport and also the Clark International Airport. Bus terminals, yung mga nakita mo along EDSA, di ba, na sobrang disorganized, madumi. Now we have a land port, di ba, in PITX Parañaque. So all these projects, as you can see, we leverage our engineering expertise, deliver these massive infrastructure programs. But again, it's not just purely business. We see to it na a lot of our projects have direct impact also to the people, no, to the community.
Lance, I'd like to add for what Jess just mentioned about the engineering excellence. A lot of people thought, or even the competitors, that the only key advantage we have is really the precast. But to be honest, I think that the bigger reason is really the excellence in the engineering side. It's really the engineering side. What do I mean by that, Lance? It's like when Apple, no, when iPhone was developed, or even like, for example, Tesla, the factory may not be in US, the factory may be in somewhere else, China, India, but it's not the factory that is the main driver. That's what makes Apple, Tesla, or Nvidia valuable. It's the know-how, because it's the know-how of Nvidia, Apple, Tesla, because no matter where you put your precast, your factory, it's the know-how of the organization, of the people inside. Because Nvidia, I don't think all the chips are made in US, all the phones are made in US, even the cars. They're made somewhere, any parts of the world, right? But it's the person or the people who know how to build it. So it's really the engineering. So minsan nagkakamali, nagkakaroon ng misunderstanding or nami-misconstrue na it's really because of they have the precast. Yeah, it's the precast. It's like you have the special robotic factory or something, but it's not that. It's the engineering. Yun. Kasi you can see naman, like we have done housing. Now, even airport, we have completed airport in 27 months. We have completed Mactan, and we have completed even many infrastructure. So like classrooms, 10,000, where nobody or like all the bidders, the contractors have rejected or have declined. So, but we decided to take that. So did we use precast in the classroom? No, but we have a different approach, different methodology, different method. So it's the engineering that is the value. It's like, basically it's like Apple and any other companies. It's not the factory per se, or it's
Innovation.
yeah, yung innovation is one of the key driver, diba? Of the know-how.
yeah. You can see it rin naman dun sa mga semiconductor manufacturers when they bring it over to America. Parang less quality yung chips nila dun eh. So I think it's exactly your point na.
Yeah.
Moving on, if you could share, lang do you have an internal stock price target for the end of 2026?
Ako, um, well, so first of all, I think year-to-date performance have been very good and strong for Megawide, and we're very happy. Um, Not really an internal stock price target, but if you see our perspective on where we sit, we need to appreciate the kind of transformation that Megawide is currently going through. You see both construction and real estate, our two core business right now, continue to deliver the targets. The delivering program that we have done, you could already see the impact. First half of 2026, we already see 200 million savings just on the delivery alone. And that's not yet the full year run rate, right? So a lot of this contribute to the overall value of the group. And we see that there's still a lot of room for growth. This year, we're looking at 1.2 billion net income target. Next year, we're even looking at 1.8 to 2 billion, no, by next year. And on top of that, we are also creating value for our shareholders because of the dividend program that we are embarking on. It's one way for us to provide support to our shareholders so that while they're waiting for their stock price or value to be realized or materialized, they're also getting compensated while waiting. So that's also one feature that we wanted to to include. So having said that, we feel there's still a lot of room for growth, pero this growth that you're seeing right now, it's supported by strong fundamentals, and with that we feel it's sustainable.
So Lance, since we cannot give you the numbers, what we can only give you now are like hints, right? For example, like the Rollis presentation, the deliver. So if you have the total amount of the debt that we have pared down, if you look, you count the savings, I don't know, you do the math, 400, 500 million savings a year, then where it will go. I mean, if you know the simple accounting, it goes to the bottom, right? Then the deliver, you have to look at the order book. If our order book in the development as a developer or how many projects have we launched, and then how many order book in the construction side have we started, order book, you can more or less see, right? You can make the projection, and we already have told you how many houses can we build in 1 year. So if you do the math, right? So if we can do the math, like what Jess mentioned, the 1.2 billion plus the can we really deliver that? So the question is if we are able to, because we already have said that to the market that we will be doing a dividend play, we'll do a regular dividends. So the only question now, if can we really deliver the regular dividends, the amount that we are telling you. So if we can deliver, you work backwards based on the yield. I mean, that will depend on the market. If the market will take it at the 10% yield, 9%, or 5%, right?
Yeah.
I guess Lance, Jess, and Sir Boss had mentioned, what we can show you are how we deliver on our commitments, and I guess based on that, we let you do the price target.
Yeah, it should be the market who should
Binato niyo ulit sa akin.
price at us, right?
Yeah.
Just for context, I think the consensus target when we started the initiative was like 450 was the consensus, and I think we breached that already at 470. So, you guys, I think it's up to you where you think.
So if they're happy with the 10% only, then probably the price will stuck on that 10% yield, diba?
Yeah.
But if there will be people who are satisfied with 6% yield, then the price will go up, and then we'll stay at that 6% yield,
I
right?
think you can do the numbers.
By the way, Lance, we are contractors, not traders. Yeah.
Grabe naman mga hype.
But kidding aside, well, first of all, we would like to thank Unicapital. You've been very supportive also of the group. But as you can see, even your research on Megawide, we were able to deliver that performance. What we can say lang is what we have delivered, we will still continue to deliver because again, there's still a lot of room for growth. It's a long journey for us.
Right, no doubt about it.
So
There's another question here. This is related rin eh. With debt down to 10 billion, how confident are you with reaching your 1.2 billion net income goal for 2026? So siguro 1 to 10.
Up
11.
going ahead.
Oh. I know. Sige.
Hindi kasi, Lance, ano na look, our business 4PH right now, majority is 4PH. If you already have the land, if you already have the design, the drawing, you already have the money, you already raised 10 billion now to fund that. What else? You already have the buyers. So what's left is you just have to deliver. Eh, siguro naman, we're a construction company. We've been doing construction for the last 29 years. So ang po magiging posible na mangyari dyan is we will be delayed.
Yeah.
Because of the rain, because whatever, or whatever reason, yun lang. Maybe the delay of 2 months, 3 months, that's the worst it can happen, right? Unless I will stop, I will not work, right? That will never happen, diba?
Yeah. Saka ano din, ano din,
Ito na logic eh. I don't know any logic.
yun. Saka Lance, siguro just to provide them more context, di ba, first half, we've already reached 530 million net income. So that's already 44% of the 1.2 billion target. You know already the interest cost savings we achieved during the first half. So more or less, you know where the other balance will come from. And I think we also provided guidance beginning of the year that for 2026, our construction and real estate will have a back-ended performance contribution. That's a function of the project S-curve or timeline of construction. So may mga leading indicators ka rin dyan, like what Boss Ed mentioned, di ba, yung order book namin and pipeline. Again, second half, you'll realize the POC. For real estate, you see that big number in the real estate presentation earlier. We have unbooked revenue of 11 billion pesos, which is just waiting for seasoning. Kasi di ba ang real estate, alam nyo naman, the revenue, first accounting, months, di ba, na POC plus the collection, there's a 10% threshold before you can realize their revenue. For our side, a lot of our sales are going through that seasoning, no? And for the second half of the year, there is a substantial flow of revenue that will be realized, no? That will further improve. That's why yung revenue kay real estate, makita nyo, it's a certain number, but EBITDA ang baba, di ba? But it's all a timing difference because of that accounting recognition. So dun pa lang, you already have visibility. And then there's another pa, yung 4PH that Boss Ed mentioned. Nakita nyo naman yung Avesta, we have already topped off in just 10 months from ground yan, to top off 10 months done. We have another 2 towers that will be topping up in Las Marinas. Supposedly dapat August, but because of the rain, got moved to early September. So all of this will continue to progress and provide that tailwind for us to deliver that 1.2 billion target. That's why we're very confident.
Right. Thanks. So let's move on to the last question na, no? Kasi medyo na sa time. But it's rin, very, very tied rin. Since you guys believe in syempre naman, you guys believe in your business and the fundamentals are good nga, do you have plans to have stock buybacks or do you have plans to purchase your own shares soon?
Yeah, no, at mega wide level, I think I have to, I have to be very clear at the mega wide level. Right now, no, because our funds right now or residual cash is reserved for number one, investment for growth, because we want to ensure that this growth path will be sustainable. Another parallel consideration that we're looking at is addressing the balance sheet. These are immediate items now we want to address first because these are fundamental that will make our cash flows more predictable and resilient. Kasi we need to make sure that whatever the uncertainty or unpredictability in the macro backdrop, we're able to weather it properly. So that's why we are focusing on those two at this point in time at the mega wide level.
Okay. I guess that wraps it up. Once again, thank you guys for attending, and now I'll pass the floor back to Hill.
Right, so and that wraps up another insightful edition of You Trade Usapang Stocks. And also a big thank you to our guests, Sir Edgar, Sir Jess, and Sir Rolly, for sharing your time, expertise, and valuable insights on Megawide Construction Corporation. We truly appreciate you helping us better understand the company's story, its opportunities, and what investors should continue to watch moving forward. And of course, thank you to everyone who joined us this afternoon. And we hope today's discussion gave you fresh perspectives and useful insights as you navigate the market and make more informed investment decisions.